There is one type of antioxidant that exists in meaningful quantities in exactly one grain on the entire planet. Not in blueberries, not in green tea, not in kale, just one. Scientists have been publishing findings on it for decades, and the results keep getting harder to dismiss. The grain has been feeding entire 5,000 years civilizations for over 5,000 years. And somehow, despite all of that, most health-focused people have never once put it in their kitchen. What you are about to find out will completely change the way you think about grains. Every few years, the wellness world crowns a new hero. Quinoa had its era. Oats had theirs. Amaranth briefly appeared on grocery shelves and quietly disappeared. But while trends came and went, one grain that outperforms most of them in protein, fiber, antioxidants, and gut health has been sitting right there, waiting. That grain is sorghum. And the reason you have never heard of it is just as interesting as the grain itself. Sorghum was first grown over 5,000 years ago in what is now Sudan. It spread across Africa, the Middle East, India, and China, following ancient trade routes the way only the most essential crops do. Today, it is the fifth most produced grain in the world. 500 million people eat it daily across Africa and Asia. The United States produces hundreds of millions of bushels of it every single year, and virtually all of it goes to livestock feed and biofuel. Not to your plate, that is not a coincidence. It is worth sitting with. Here's the first thing that makes sorghum immediately relevant to you. 1 in every 133 people has celiac disease, and many millions more have non-celiac gluten sensitivity, meaning their body quietly mounts an inflammatory response every time they eat wheat, rye, or barley. Most of the time, people do not even realize it is happening. The standard fix has been to reach for processed rice flour or starchy potato-based substitutes that carry almost no nutritional value. You avoid the problem, but you gain nothing. Sorghum changes that entirely. It is not processed to remove gluten. It is not formulated in a lab. It is inherently, structurally, genetically gluten-free. A clinical study in Italy had people with celiac disease eat sorghum-based foods for 5 consecutive days. No symptoms. Antibody levels remained completely unchanged. The researchers confirmed it as fully safe for a strict gluten-free diet. When you replace refined gluten-free alternatives with sorghum, you are not just avoiding the problem. You are actually giving your body something that improves the situation. Now, here is the part that most nutrition videos skip entirely, and it is the most compelling part. Sorghum contains a class of antioxidant compounds that exist in meaningful concentrations in only one place on Earth: pigmented sorghum, black sorghum, red sorghum. Here is what makes them truly different from every other antioxidant you already know about. Think about the antioxidants in blueberries or red cabbage. They are powerful, but they are chemically fragile. As they travel through your digestive system, the environment changes. The acidity shifts, and those antioxidants start breaking down before they can do their job. Sorghum's antioxidants do not behave that way. They stay structurally intact through all of those changes. That means by the time they reach the parts of your gut where they can actually do something, they are still biologically active. Research published in peer-reviewed chemistry journals has shown these compounds can trigger something remarkable in cancer cells, a self-destruct mechanism where abnormal cells are essentially programmed to shut themselves down while leaving healthy cells completely untouched. The science is still developing, but the mechanism is specific enough that researchers have called it a genuinely promising dietary pathway. And here is what you need to remember: none of this applies to white sorghum. The color is not cosmetic. It is where the entire benefit lives. Black or red varieties only. Gut health gets talked about constantly. Eat more fiber, take a probiotic. But the more useful conversation is about what your gut bacteria are actually eating and what happens when they get the right fuel. Sorghum's fiber and resistant starch do not simply pass through unchanged. When they reach your large intestine, your gut bacteria ferment them. That fermentation produces butyrate. Think of butyrate as a repair crew for your gut wall. The cells that line your colon, the wall that separates your intestinal contents from your bloodstream, run almost entirely on butyrate as their fuel source. When that wall gets compromised, inflammation does not stay local. It spreads through your body. Butyrate helps rebuild and maintain that barrier from the inside. Research published in 2025 confirmed that sorghum's combination of resistant starch and its unique antioxidants selectively feeds the bacterial families most consistently linked to reduced inflammation, stronger immune response, and, this is the part people do not expect, better mental health outcomes. That last part is not incidental. Sorghum also contains tryptophan, the amino acid your body uses to produce serotonin. The gut-brain connection runs directly through what you choose to eat, and sorghum supports both ends of that pathway at the same time. Here is a number that tends to stop people. Sorghum contains roughly 13% protein by weight. White rice sits at 8%. That's not a marginal difference. That's more than 60% more protein per serving from a grain most people have never cooked. Beyond Celiac, a major patient advocacy organization, has stated directly that sorghum provides more protein, more iron, and more essential micronutrients than quinoa. That is the grain that most health-conscious people spent the last decade treating as the gold standard. And unlike most grains, sorghum contains all 9 essential amino acids. That makes it a complete protein. Most grains are not. They need to be paired with other foods to cover your full amino acid needs. Sorghum handles it on its own. Now zoom out for a second, because this matters beyond your own kitchen. Sorghum uses a fraction of the water that rice and corn need to produce the same yield, and it has a biological ability that almost no other staple crop possesses. When drought hits, it pauses its own growth, waits, and then resumes once water becomes available again. It does not die. It waits. Researchers studying climate-resilient agriculture have identified sorghum as one of the most critical crops for global food security as temperatures rise and rainfall becomes less predictable. Choosing to eat it is a personal health decision that carries a much bigger ripple. So here's how to actually use it. Whole sorghum grain cooks like a heartier version of rice. Use 1 cup of grain to 2.5 cups of water and cook for about 50 to 60 minutes. The texture is chewy and satisfying, and it absorbs spices and sauces deeply. Try popped sorghum. Add a small handful of dry grains to a hot pan with a lid and no oil. Within 2 minutes, they pop into tiny, crunchy spheres. It is a naturally gluten-free, lower glycemic alternative to popcorn that almost nobody knows about. Try it this week. Sorghum flour works as a partial replacement, up to about 1/3 in most standard baking recipes, without significantly changing the texture. The one choice that makes the biggest difference is to always reach for pigmented varieties, black or red sorghum. White sorghum is still nutritionally solid. The protein, the fiber, and the resistant starch are all there. But the antioxidant compounds that separate sorghum from everything else in the grain aisle live inside that color. Do not buy generic white and expect the full benefit. Pick up whole sorghum grain this week. Cook it, pop it, add it to a grain bowl, give your gut bacteria something genuinely new to work with, and pay attention to how your energy and digestion respond over the next 2 weeks. Because here's the thing, you do not need to wait for the food industry to catch up. The research is already compelling enough to start now. Drop a comment and tell me, had you ever heard of sorghum before this? I am genuinely curious how many people know this grain exists. If this kind of content is what you are here for, hit subscribe, because there is more coming every week.